Mr. Hopwood?
Speaking, yes.
Yes, hello, it's Mr. Hussain here.
Hi.
Did you receive my last email?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm just ringing you up today just to find out what your suggestions are.
So I need to get you a sort of summary of the INE to you, and then if you can give me some detail about which areas you want to look at, and then we need to try and get you some documentation on the areas you picked.
Okay, but this was your original suggestion back in June, wasn't it? Or May when we last spoke.
I think it probably goes back a year or so.
Yeah. So your position hasn't really changed from that, has it?
I think I'll have to check, but my emails, from what I can remember, I think what I was suggesting maybe a few years ago was to sort of get the process started.
Yeah, I understand. I mean but we previously. I mean, like I said, I'm in agreement with you on a provisional basis because, but I just wanted to just encapsulate what your position is because we've got that was originally suggested to me on my first request, which was made through Neville Burskett. If you recall, in 2014.
Okay, I mean, I'd have to check back, but I certainly remember last year.
Yeah.
What I said last year,
Yeah. But I think it was yourself that was because at the time it was Stuart McKinnon Evans who was the financial director who gave the responsibility to yourself. So the very first contact I had was with yourself in 2014, and you then liaised with your colleague Miss Burskett, and we were of the same opinion. You were of the same opinion that you are today. And I did focus in on that, but that once again, what concerns me is that this process is being done on an ad hoc basis rather than on a procedural basis. And what I mean by that is that you've made a suggestion, and there's no reference in law to this. And whereas how I would have liked to proceed is within the reference of the law and any procedures that you have in place. It seems to be done on an ad hoc basis, and that was the situation that I determined in 2014. On the background of nefarious actions being taken by the local authority in relation to my brother Nazim Hussain, whom then subsequently died that year. And around about this time, there was actions taken against him, and I eventually, I think I sent an email to yourself as well that I held the local authority accountable for this, and that was in 2014. And then in 2015, I attempted to do the same thing. Once again, made a subject, made an audit commission request, and then other further nefarious actions were taken against me, where I was eventually convicted of fraud, and that was in 2015. Then in 2016 I was not available, and then in 2017 I was not available, and then in 2018, when we spoke last year, I've made the very same request, and nefarious actions have been taken against a second brother who got abducted and taken into a hospital, and I've had to bring him back. I'm just concerned that in 2019 I'm making the same requests, and presently the local authority are taking legal action against me in relation to my mother. And so, there's a correlation here, because every time I'm of the opinion that something fraudulent is happening. So I'm on that basis, I'm making these inquiries, and every time I'm making these inquiries, every year, something very terrible is happening to my family. So can you understand why I would be really suspicious about the circumstances that you're presenting to me?
So obviously I understand you've had dealings elsewhere with other people in the council. So I'm just responding to the query around the...
Yeah, I understand, and I understand that obviously your position. I ideally didn't want to speak to yourself. I wanted to speak to Stuart McKinnon Evans, but because he's a director, he himself forwarded the email to you, and so similarly today I'm looking to speak to the directors or senior management, and I appreciate your role and remit is very limited in scope to focus in on the financial situation or my audit request, but I have to take a holistic and general view, and the holistic and general view is one where I'm making this request which I believe I'm within the law, and I've referenced the law which allows me and gives me this right, but every time I'm looking to execute this right, something very dangerous and nefarious happens to my family members. And so that's a correlation that I've formulated, and as a result of this, I fully believe that the local authority are acting in a fraudulent manner in regards to its finances, and that's why on the surface of it, where I may have done a preliminary assessment or made an audit request, I'm going to be now much more scrutinizing everything. Does that make sense?
So obviously, so I'm just dealing with the inspection of accounts request. Obviously, I need to get back to you on that.
Yes, but that situation, as you can appreciate, the last time we spoke, and I did mention the fact that I won't be ringing yourself up again, because at that time, I think when we last spoke, I think it was in May, or yes, I think it was in May, and you said that we've only put the advert or the advertisement on the website that that you can inspect the accounts, and the account inspection period is going to be from the 5th of June to the 5th of July. And I said, well, can you view my request as a preemptive request to view the or audit records? Now, what concerns me is the fact that that time window has elapsed, and I didn't hear anything back from yourself.
Also, I need to sort of get back to you. I need to sort of move on with your query.
Yeah, but do you understand that the what the law prescribes says that within that month period I can inspect the accounts and then lay questions to the external auditors. So I'm not going to be in a position to do that, am I?
No one's. I mean, all that's happened is, as I said in my email, we haven't got. At the moment, for various reasons, we've been under a lot of pressure the last couple of months.
What about last couple of years?
Obviously, I'd have liked to got back to you earlier. I now need to. So as I said, I will try and get back to you with your query. As I say, I think I have sent information back to you previously.
When was this?
I can't remember.
Yeah, no, I can assure you that that's not happened. The last time that I've actually received some information was a document bundle that I came and collected in 2014, where Neville Burskett was commissioned or responsible for meeting with myself. I actually came to your offices at Britannia House. He took me upstairs into one of the rooms. I remember that specifically because that particular day there was a picket line where your employees had been protesting, and I crossed the picket line in order to be escorted into your building. I had then received some documentation which was not satisfactory, and as I explained, as a result of me doing this, my brother's life got terminated, which I then held yourself responsible for. So but my concerns are that now you're saying to me that you're looking to get back to us because of resource deficits, but you are aware, and you have been fully aware of the law since the year 2000, when this act came in place, that members of the public have a right to inspect the accounts.
So getting back.
Okay, all right. Look, let's get back to the points at hand. Now, you said you're going to formulate some documents and send them to me.
Yes. So obviously we've got draft statement of accounts is on the Bratnet website. Get you a further more detailed summary of that, and you can start picking different areas that you want to look at.
Okay, all right. And what under what legislation am I doing that?
So we're doing this, aren't we, under your inspection of accounts?
Yeah. So we're doing this as an ad hoc basis, yes, because obviously that my inspection period has now expired.
Well, I'm saying I would have liked to respond to you earlier.
Yeah, I understand. But obviously we're doing things on an ad hoc basis now, aren't we?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but...
Well, what I mean by ad hoc is that there's no framework in place, i.e. you say you're going to get me something, I'm going to look at something, there's no dates, there's no definitive dates or procedure or process that we're following. We're doing things like on a come-as-you-may basis.
So in terms of why it's been late this year, it's basically because I've been short-staffed, and I've been sort of sidetracked onto other issues. and I'm now trying to catch up.
Okay, all right. No, I understand that, but those are like internal administrative issues, like being short-staffed and having other priorities. Why can't I speak to I mean, can you tell me who the new financial director is?
Yeah, we've got. The new finance director has only recently started.
What date did they start?
It's either 2 or 3 weeks, so they're only just very recent.
Oh, okay, all right. And what's their name?
The name of the director of finance is Chris Chapman.
Chris Chapman, yes. Can I not speak to him? Because look, I think the angle that I'm coming at is from a very formal perspective, and ultimately liability falls on Chris Chapman as a financial director, but ultimately to Kirsten England, whom I believe is orchestrating these nefarious actions. But can I not speak to Chris Chapman?
Well, I think you're only going to get to the same position, which is, we're going to provide you with more detailed.
I understand, but you understand, it's a question of liability. If you've done something wrong, you're not liable, are you? Personally, you're not liable, are you? You're an employee doing your job.
Should we just sort of concentrate on starting this process off? We've agreed how we're going to.
Yes, okay, all right. I mean, but when I said an ad hoc basis, I mean that what time frame are you talking about? When are you going to get me this information? When do you anticipate from me? What's a reasonable amount that we can agree on that where our response would be required? So this is what I'm saying is that it's an ad hoc basis. Can you just give me a bit more clarity on not what you're going to get me, but how the procedure is going to be followed?
Yes. So going to give you more detailed breakdown of the INE.
By when?
I'll do it as soon as I possibly can do.
Okay, so that is ad hoc, isn't it? So that's not nothing definitive.
Okay.
So soon as can be subjective. Soon as can be maybe a month, 2 months, 5 months. It's whenever you get around to it.
No, actually, I'm conscious I've got to do it. It is top of my list.
All right. Can I commit you to something? Can I commit you to some dates?
Well, if I say absolutely, you'll have something back, but this week. But obviously, I would like to get something back to you earlier than that.
Okay, all right. So that's a way forward. Okay, so that gives me at least some sort of clarity that you're going to give me something by the end of the week. So if I don't hear anything by the end of this week, I can ring yourself up and say, where are we with this?
Yes, yeah. But I'd hope to get back to you before then.
Okay, that's a caveat that you can put in there for your own benefit. But like I said, even if you give me, I don't work with ad hoc basis. I work with something more definitive. So you said by the end of the week you're going to get me something, and my only concern is that you've made me these promises in the past, in last year when you said I'll get back to you by a particular date or a time, and then that time has passed and you haven't got back to me. I believe that was the case when we last left things, where you had made some suggestions. I would just urge you. I can't force you, but I would just urge you to at least try your best endeavours to get me something as we've come to an agreement on.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. I can't remember offhand where we got to last year. I know there was some toing and froing about.
Yeah, I understand. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, I believe that the local authority are committing a criminal act by denying me these records, because I think I've gone to some lengths regarding this through writing that you're committing an act of fraud, which is under Section 3 of the Fraud Act, which says that if I'm entitled to some information and you're not giving it to me, then you're committing an act of fraud.
I think I don't really think. I think you kind of. I mean, the only way to sort of.
Now, what you've used the fact that I've referenced to you a legislation that says in Section 3 of the Fraud Act 2006 is that if you're entitled to some information and you're not being given it or it's been destroyed, then there's a clear breach of the Act.
If you just let me answer.
Yeah, sure.
I'm completely separate from the other issues that have been going on between yourselves.
I understand.
And so we can just. So I'm looking at the statement of accounts and I'm endeavouring, as we've agreed, onto your query. So keep it in those terms.
Okay, and I'm not referencing anything else. I'm just saying that you're doing something. Look, for example, if you tell me to do something, like say to you, for example, if you say, oh, go buy me some apples. My first question is that under what framework am I going to buy you some apples? Am I doing you a favour? Or is there a legal duty for me to do something? Am I being paid to buy apples for the council employees, and therefore I am duty bound to buy you apples? That's an analogy. So similarly, if I'm asking you to do something, I just need to be clear, and I think we both need to be clear of why you're doing that, under what framework, rather than as an ad hoc, come as you may, like you're doing me a favor. I just want to be clear upon this, that if I'm asking for something, I have a legal right to ask for that something under this legislation, which is the Audit Commission Act, now, or its updated version. And if you're not complying, then you're in breach of this law, which is a Fraud Act. So that is the kind of position I'm at, because I'm trying to give the justification of why you should be doing these things, and in the framework of the legislation. So this is the angle I'm coming at, irrespective of everything else that's happened. I just want to focus in on the fact that under the Fraud Act 2006 Section 3, which I forwarded to yourself, my entitlements gets created through the Audit Commission Act, which says that I can inspect these accounts. And there's a window of opportunity that's been afforded to me. You've published that in your website. I've then attempted to execute my right, which has been circumvented. And I'm just trying to clarify that this is the position we're at, that if you're doing anything for me, it's not as a personal favor for me. You're employed by the local authority through the commissioning of your financial director, to assist me in reference to the law. I'm just concerned that you're not referencing any framework or law.
Right. So I think we've agreed how we're going to go ahead, aren't we? So should we?
Yes. I'm not preventing you, but I'm just expressing my concerns.
Right, okay.
And those concerns are that you're looking to liaise with me on an ad hoc basis without reference to any legislation.
Well, I've listened to what you said. Now, I have listened to what you said. We've agreed what we're going to do, so let's
Okay, well, we'll take it one step at a time then. Okay, that's not a problem. I hope to hear something back from you by the end of the week. If I don't, I will endeavour to contact you next week. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hopwood.
Okay,
thank you. Bye-bye. So they clearly committed an act of fraud. They don't want to admit to it, and now they're just making stuff up like, let's do it on an ad hoc, informal, come as you may basis, where we will look to do something. We've been having our own delays and issues. Irrelevant. This is a very, 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 very serious issue regarding money. All right, money is not something that you take on a likely basis. That you're just going to liaise affair, ad hoc, come as you may, let's just be friends and just come to an agreement on something. It's a very formal process. I mean, if for example you don't pay the council tax, they come at you, they put you into prison saying, look, you owe us this money. All right, we're not going to compromise on this. We're not going to say no, let's just leave it for a while. If you're late in any payment, we'll come for you, we'll charge you for the difference, right? So therefore, they'll come for you if you're late with any money. But yet, on the other hand, when I'm asking them, look, I have a legal right. That legal right gets created through the Audit Commission Act, or its updated version in 2005, I think, or not 2015. On top of that, there's a clear fraud taking place, which is that says that if you don't give us this information, you're committing an act of fraud. So I want to make it formal. I want to make it legal. I want to make it in the context of legislation, and they want to make it informal, ad hoc, and come as you may. And then while I'm pursuing this agenda, they're gonna attack my mother, attack my brother, attack us as a family, make us destitute, and cause us pain, suffering, and misery, simply because they're hiding something. So whereas previously I may have just done it on a casual basis of just looking to inspect the accounts because it was just something I was interested in, and I can clearly show a legal clearly show a justification for my inquiries. Now, because of their failure to comply, I'm going to scrutinize every single penny that they or every single amount that they show me, because it needs to be now I fully believe that fraud has taken place. Systemic fraud is taking place at the local authority in regards to the auditing of their accounts, and I'm looking to hold them to account. Now, what's going to happen now is that my mother, who's an 86-year-old woman's life, is going to be terminated as another form of punishment for me making these inquiries. Now, like I said, in 2014, I made these inquiries, and my brother Nazim was murdered, and I was set up to, be convicted of his murder. That didn't happen because I quickly wised up to what they were doing, and they were just incompetent in butchering him to death. So that was in 2014. In 2015, as I explained, they were trying to pursue me for fraud charges, and the case was so weak and miserable that any impartial judge would have thrown it out. But they preemptively got their own judge, Judge Mark Saville, to come on board and commissioned his services so he could put me to prison. 2016 and 17, I was not available to carry out the audit commission request. In 2018, I've made a request, and my brother Talib Hussein's the police and the social workers have come to my house and abducted Talib and thrown him into a mental asylum for 6 months and tried to take further legal action where they were trying to remove me as the nearest relative. So that happened in 2018, and then in 2019, there's a live case going on where my mother's going to be abducted from me, and they're basically just trying to kill her off, as a punishment that I've looked to inspect these accounts. It's very, very clear and self-evident to me now that the local authority are committing systemic fraud on financial fraud, and are looking to cover it up and not giving me the right to inspect their accounts because they know that they've been committing fraud.